Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give folks just a minute here to get their audio connected. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. Thanks so much for joining us, and we appreciate your patience. We're going to get started in just about 30 seconds here. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 2021 HousingIs Summit. I'm Abra Lyons-Warren, Director of Cross-Sector Initiatives. We're so pleased to have you join us. And for those of you who were with us yesterday, we loved your enthusiasm and participation. Just some reflections from folks that I heard from, and for those of you who filled out your evaluations. If you didn't, we would love for you to do so. You should have received an email with that, and we can also put a link to day one evaluation in the chat again for you. But really some great reflections in terms of how useful it was to hear from people from all different sectors, which is great. That's the whole point, right, of the conference and the HousingIs initiative. So really pleased that folks were excited to see a bigger picture of challenges and accomplishments. And one participant told us that for them, it was really about connection over content, build connection and build community, which I thought was a really nice summary. I also thought it was interesting to hear from some of the sessions how lessons taken away from the pandemic had really shown that there were changes that maybe should have happened sooner for their programming for residents. And so there will be permanent and lasting changes coming out of changes that they maybe wouldn't have thought to make otherwise. So really pleased with all of that. Tech-wise, all of you are muted right now. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. Those will come to hosts. That's either of a tech nature or just questions. So would love for you to put any questions you have in the chat there. All sessions are being recorded. So if you missed a session, you want to revisit, share with a colleague, that will be available in the coming weeks on our website, and we will send out an email with how to access the recordings. Similarly, I know a lot of you love to have PowerPoints. For sessions that are using PowerPoints or other resources, that can be found in the conference app as attachments under the sessions themselves. You can access the app either by downloading it on your phone, either in the Google Play Store for Android or in the App Store for iPhones, or you can access in the browser of your computer. If you're having trouble with any of that, please just send us a chat or email. If you'd like to join us on Twitter, we can be found at housing_is and by using the hashtag HousingIs2021. As I mentioned, you'll be getting another link to evaluations today at the end of the day, and we really do value your feedback to help us plan future events. So today we're focused on data and metrics, and specifically we have a spotlight on post-secondary opportunities. Now, those of you who have been involved in our work know that this is a space CLPHA has been in for the last couple of years. And that was really spurred by, once again, the innovative work we saw happening across the country among housing authorities and their post-secondary partners. I'm pleased to say that with support from the Kresge Foundation, we currently have a Post-Secondary Leadership Institute, which is made up of a cohort of housing authorities and those post-secondary partners. You can actually hear more from them during a session this afternoon. But this is something that we think is just critical for folks to gain additional education, workforce training, so that they can obtain a job that will pay a living wage. We assume you agree with us, and we're so pleased to be able to share more about work that's happening today, specifically in the state of Michigan. I'd also like to thank Funders for Housing and Opportunity, Their support of our work at the HousingIs initiative over the past couple of years has been integral, and we really appreciate that, as well as their contributions to the field overall. I'm so pleased that today we have Program Officer Jennifer Angranita joining us today. So I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself and the organization further, and then she will be introducing our keynote speaker. Jennifer?
Great, thank you, Abra. Good afternoon or good morning for folks on the West Coast. My name is Jennifer Angarita, and I am the Senior Program Officer at Funders for Housing and Opportunity. I'd like to begin today by thanking CLPHA for their great work in hosting the HousingIs conference and for curating today's thoughtful programming. Funders for Housing and Opportunity is a cross-sector funder collaborative that brings together the nation's leading funders to promote racial justice and ensure stable housing and thriving communities for those who need it most. We make investments across 3 related priority areas. 1, policy advocacy and organizing around advancing efforts that strengthen and improve policies and protections for equitable and affordable housing. 2, narrative change, which is really around shifting the narrative so that more people understand why housing is a basic necessity for everyone and is so much more than just a commodity. And 3, elevating what works, which helps amplify cross-sector solutions in the field. We are dedicated to dismantling racial inequities, repairing harms, and restructuring systems to ensure equitable housing and life outcomes for all people, but in particular Black, Indigenous, and people of color. No matter where we are from or where we live, having a safe, stable home is the foundation of our well-being and health. And members of FHO understand that housing at its core is a deeply cross-sector issue, that housing security creates pathways to opportunities, and that the scale of affordable housing and displacement crisis cannot be addressed in isolation. We understand how investments in housing strengthen everything from our healthcare system and our climate to our economic mobility and our education system. When families have access to safe, stable, and affordable homes, children do better in school, and parents can participate in their children's growth and development. When children remain in stable housing, academic performance and graduation rates increase. When more affordable housing is available, community college enrollments increase, and schools can retain and recruit smart, capable teachers. It's no question that cross-sector issues necessitate cross-sector solutions, and that we need leaders and elected officials who take a proactive intersectional approach to policy issues. And that's why today I'm so thrilled to be introducing Susan Corbin, who is the Senior Chief Deputy of the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity and is currently serving as Acting Director. As Senior Chief Deputy, Ms. Corbin led operations for the LEO department, directly overseeing the labor agencies and unemployment insurance offices, and steering the department during the worst public health crisis in a century. Ms. Corbin is a veteran of the state government who has served across 3 administrations. She began her professional career working for the Michigan Departments of Commerce, Labor, and Transportation, and has had a long and storied career in public service, serving roles in Governor Whitmer's office, the Michigan Public Service Commission, and the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Today, Ms. Corbin is a vocal champion for working families in Michigan during one of the most challenging times in our nation's history. In each of her roles, she has brought a steadfast dedication to public service, strong knowledge of political and regulatory systems, and has a deep commitment to make Michigan a place where all people, businesses, and communities have the educational and economic means to reach their full potential. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Corbin.
Jennifer, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I don't need to say very much about my background because I think Jennifer touched on most of it. I have had my career in state government and in public service, and I've served in the administration of our 2 women governors, Governor Granholm, who is now our Secretary of Energy, and Governor Whitmer. And in both administrations, we've gone through some challenging times, but here in Michigan, we are all still standing. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. And thank you also to all of you who are in attendance for the important work that you all do. So with that, I want to go ahead and share my screen so that I can talk to you a little bit about what we are doing here in Michigan and talk specifically about Michigan Reconnect. So if you are patient with me on the technology side, I'll get my screen up. Okay, can I get a thumbs up that you see my screen okay?
Yes, it looks great.
Yeah. In Michigan, we are Microsoft Teams. So when I'm back on Zoom, I sometimes have to think a little bit before I can get going. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm absolutely thrilled to be invited here today to talk about our exciting new Michigan Reconnect program. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of the background on our department and what led us to this initiative. We are the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, but for those of us who work for the department, we fondly refer to it as LEO. So when I say LEO, I'm talking about our department. So LEO was created to merge 17 agencies with common missions and goals into one cohesive department focused on making Michigan a better place to live, work, play, and do business. In doing so, we've been committed to ensuring that our efforts to promote economic opportunity and prosperity in Michigan are coordinated, evidence-based, equitable, and customer-focused. That was the basis behind our strategic plan that you can see outlined here on the screen. And as I go through this presentation, you'll see highlights of the priority programs we're working on that protect the health and safety and security of workers, build equitable pathways to careers, enable Michigan businesses to grow and thrive, and remove barriers to employment. With all that has been going on during this pandemic, it makes it even harder to believe that the creation of our department was nearly 2 years ago. When the governor created our department, she had a vision, and she charged us with promoting economic opportunity and prosperity, ensuring that efforts in Michigan are coordinated, evidence-based, equitable, and customer-focused. Despite all the challenges this year has brought our way, we remain laser-focused on our vision to make Michigan a place where all people, businesses, and communities have the educational and economic means to reach their full potential. And we continue to look ahead to ensure we have a strong foundation for a long-term economic recovery moving forward. Before I dive into the programs and services, I wanted to talk a bit about the data that helped us shape our priority focus areas. When LEO was formed, we worked with a number of economists to really get a good lay of the land. And from that work, we knew the headwinds facing our workforce and economy are strong. Now more than ever, government, business, education, and community-based leaders need to work together to solve problems. We observed 6 major challenges: an acute talent shortage. We have low educational attainment and labor market mismatches, a shrinking workforce, a contracting population, and low labor force participation. Stalling economic mobility with flat income growth and high levels of working poverty. Poor sector diversity with high susceptibility to automation and recession. A leaking entrepreneurship funnel. We fail to translate research and development investment into growth and employment. And a short supply of low income and workforce housing. We have a housing inequity with high shelter overburden and declining homeownership. In particular, we were struck when we looked at income growth. In Michigan, we fell off the pace in the 2001 recession and further still during the Great Recession. We have never recovered. What gains we have seen have gone to the richest 40%. As a result, nearly 40% of Michigan households live in working poverty. All of this data was pre-pandemic. The recession and lasting effects of this pandemic make our work and collaboration with key stakeholders, such as those of you in this meeting today, even more vital to our state's economic recovery. In response to these challenges, we focused on 3 strategic areas: breaking apart big challenges and attacking component parts. All sub-agencies within LEO are mission critical to helping us drive the right outcomes for the state by utilizing data and policy rigor into decision-making. But more importantly, we want to focus the organization across a few key North Star metrics. The ALICE rate. Are we driving down working poverty? Post-secondary attainment. Are we giving people tools for a better life? And good, promising job creation and placement. Are we creating pathway jobs? First, I'll discuss ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, employed. 1.5 million Michigan households, 38% of Michigan's population, cannot afford basic household necessities. We're looking into how we can move the needle down for Michiganders who are working but living at or below poverty. A growing proportion of households across Michigan, comprised of all races, ages, genders, and family compositions, have income that can't afford the actual cost of housing, childcare, food, healthcare, technology, and transportation. ALICE workers play an essential role in the state economy, but have not benefited from many of the state's recent economic gains, a reality that is not captured by traditional economic measures. The latest report from the United Way in Michigan breaks down labor force data in new ways, and in so doing highlights the challenges ALICE workers face, including the declining power of wages to keep up with the cost of living, a growing dependence on hourly wages, an historically high number of adults out of the labor force, and increased economic risk for workers. The majority of hourly jobs in the state paid less than $20 an hour in 2019, making it difficult for many households to make ends meet, even with 2 workers employed full-time. Governor Whitmer boldly called for a 60% statewide attainment rate by 2030. Attainment of post-secondary attainment, reported by the Lumina Foundation, has Michigan at 49.1%, a modest climb from the 45% we started at when the governor announced the goal, but we are still lagging when compared to the national average. In order to meet that statewide goal, we must accelerate our progress. Together with Governor Whitmer and our colleagues in the legislature, we're working to put a college degree or skills certificate within reach for more adults. Everyone in Michigan has a right to an educational path to success, whether that's a certificate in the skilled trades, an apprenticeship, an associate's degree, or a bachelor degree. Based on pre-pandemic data, we knew we were in a very tight labor market with more job openings and fewer unemployed Michiganders than at any point in the 21st century. With acute talent shortages in high skill areas such as IT and computer science, healthcare, engineering. Increasingly, jobs are going unfilled because Michiganders don't have the post-secondary credentials required to fill them. With the dramatic rise in unemployment due to the pandemic, we will have to work even harder to ensure all Michiganders have access to pathway jobs. In 2020, despite facing added challenges while responding to COVID-19, we've been able to keep up the momentum and move the needle forward with new efforts we believe will have the most impact on our economic recovery. While this includes a number of added initiatives like the Poverty Task Force, our Office of Future Mobility and Electrification, and the Black Leadership Advisory Council, Today, I'm going to focus on the state's 60 by 30 goal. This goal aims to have 60% of working age Michiganders with a degree or skills certificate by the year 2030. And with that, we're laser focused on building a healthy and more competitive economy in our state, so all hardworking Michiganders can have opportunities for long-term success. In doing so, we will also bring Michigan closer to helping businesses fill critical talent needs by ensuring Michiganders are put on a path to earn post-secondary credentials needed to fill high-demand, high-wage jobs. Our journey has not been easy. Michigan Reconnect, a key component to reaching our 60 by 30 goal, was one of Governor Whitmer's signature programs announced during her first State of the State address. The Senate approved funding for Reconnect March 11th, the day after we discovered our first 2 COVID-19 cases. And then the House approved funding for Reconnect on March 12th. And then it was presented to the governor on March 17th for her signature. As we started to realize the economic hardships of the pandemic, the governor was forced to veto her very own key program in order to get out emergency financial support. This led us to the Futures for Frontliners program. We were the first in the nation to utilize federal GEAR dollars, Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, from the CARES Act, to create a pathway for essential workers during the pandemic to receive a tuition-free path to community college. Once the fiscal year wrapped up and we were in a better place financially, the governor and bipartisan legislative leaders worked together to invest $30 million for more than 4.1 million Michiganders aged 75 and up to earn an associate's degree or skills certificate. Despite having all hands on deck, utilizing state and federal funding, partnering with key stakeholders, and investing in tuition-free pathways, we know these efforts alone aren't enough to get us to our goal of 60% of Michiganders with a post-secondary credential or certificate by 2030. But I think we can say we also must boost college enrollment rates among traditional age students right out of high school and working age adults, dramatically improve credential completion rates, particularly among community colleges, keep our talent here in Michigan, ensuring those that graduate from our institutions stay here in Michigan, and attract educated workers to Michigan to fill our most in-demand jobs. Governor Whitmer announced the Futures for Frontliners initiative to help Michigan workers and their families during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic by providing a tuition-free pathway to college or a technical certificate to essential workers who do not have a college degree. Futures for Frontliners will also provide GED classes and preparation to adults without a high school diploma or equivalency, putting them on a path to career success. The program is the first of its kind in the country and was inspired by the federal government's support of soldiers returning from World War II by providing educational opportunities. This is a community-driven effort to provide new opportunities to frontliners. Frontline workers who take advantage of this program will help us reach Governor Whitmer's goal to increase the number of working age adults with technical certificates or college degrees by 45% to 60% by 2030. This program launched last September, and the level of interest in Futures for Frontliners far surpassed our expectations. When enrollment was closed at the end of September, we had more than 120,000 applications. There are really only 2 eligibility requirements to qualify for Futures for Frontliners. Individuals must not have an associate's degree or higher and worked outside their home during Michigan's first wave of the pandemic during the spring of 2020, when we didn't know anything about this virus or how it spread. Michigan was one of the hardest hit states during this first wave, with our peak hitting during the first week of April. If you think about those who are essential workers, but that don't have a degree, They are the cashiers and shelf stockers in our grocery stores. They are bus drivers. They are the janitors in our hospitals. They are the direct care workers in our nursing homes. They put their lives on the line while we were safely sheltering in place, but yet they were likely making a wage that couldn't sustain a family. We know this program will have a large impact on low-income individuals and families in Michigan. The frontliners that applied for the scholarship were disproportionately younger, age 18 to 44, female, more than 2/3 of applicants were women, and African American. Michigan is about 14% Black, yet made up 25% of the applications. By utilizing GEAR funding to fill an immediate need for this education pathway, we not only found a way to give back to essential workers, but it also gave us a bit of a soft launch for the broader Michigan Reconnect program. Like Futures for Frontliners, the aim of Michigan Reconnect is to make it easier and more affordable than ever for adults with some or no college experience to earn a post-secondary degree. Michigan Reconnect launched this February to extend that tuition-free path, and we already have nearly 70,000 Michigan adults who've applied for this scholarship. This new scholarship program offers an historic tuition-free opportunity for more than 4.1 million Michiganders aged 25 and older statewide to earn an associate's degree or skills certificate. When we launched Reconnect, we were thrilled to see the broad coverage and excitement across the state. Every single TV station in the state covered this program. There have been national stories featuring Michigan's innovative approach. But what I really enjoy is sharing this opportunity with the personal connections I have. I truly believe that all of us have a part to play in talking with neighbors, grocery store clerks, and others in our community and circles. My mother was a public school teacher, and she has dementia and is in a memory care facility, great memory care facility in Lansing, Michigan. And during the period when we were on lockdown, my sister and I just felt so much for the people in that facility and all that they were doing, for my mother and everybody else there. But my mother was a public school teacher, and she was very proud not only of the impact she had on her students, but also the impact she had on the parapros that she worked with, frequently older women who did not have college degrees and were working for slightly above minimum wage. She worked with many of those parapros to help them go back to school to complete their degrees. So in memory care, she is in total public teacher mode, and she is always talking to the people in her facility about the young people who work in the facility about their need to go back to college. They need to complete their college degree. That's her mantra. So when Futures for Frontliners was rolled out, I made sure that the director at her facility knew about the program, and I, followed up, and 4 of the young people who work in her memory care facility have enrolled in Futures for Frontliners. So I think it's just a small thank you to all of the work that they've done. It's been a tremendous it's been tremendous to hear other personal stories of Michiganders who are looking to take advantage of this tuition-free path. And I wanted to share the story of a special reconnector who joined us when we launched the program in Michigan, Shabaka Bailey.
Susan, we're not able to hear the video.
Not sharing.
If you share your screen and then you click the screen share, at the bottom there's a little box that says share sound, and click that, and then it should come through.
Okay. The little box that says share sound.
On the bottom left.
I'm not seeing that box. Share sound.
Yes, you're not, okay. If you you see the pop-up menu that has all the screen share options?
Okay, I see, I've got the box.
Okay, and then the bottom left, there should be something that says share sound right next to the one that says optimize for video clip. No,
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
Okay. Well, we have provided the link. I'm sorry that you're not going to hear directly from Shabaka. He is he's a young 25-year-old parent. He has 2 young children, but he was raised in foster care. So he does not have, he does not have his own parents. And it's just, critically important to him that he support his young family, and that he give him, and that he gives his 2 children, Journey and Josiah, a good example. So during the pandemic, he was laid off. He went to our local workforce, his local workforce development office, and they told him about the Michigan Reconnect program. And so he enrolled. He's going to be attending Lansing Community College in the fall, and he is going to be studying aviation technology. So that's just, one of the transformational stories of our program. And I guess it's also important to note that both Reconnect and Frontliners are considered last dollar scholarships, meaning applicants must first complete their FAFSA for federal aid, and federal aid will be applied before Reconnect funding. We know it's critical that we continue to push and promote FAFSA in order to get more students on a college track and ultimately into rewarding careers that pay a living wage. It's another form of support, like childcare, food, and housing assistance. This should be another tool we're pushing to help struggling individuals on a path to success. While the Futures for Frontliners and Michigan Reconnect efforts were a $54 million combined investment to date, we realize that tuition is not the only barrier many of our adults face. They need support with critical necessities like housing, childcare, transportation, and more. That's why Governor Whitmer has made it a priority to also include $15 million in her supplemental budget request for wraparound services to support frontliners and reconnectors. Leverage the American Rescue Plan to ensure reconnectors are connected to this subsidy. Extend SNAP eligibility to college students facing food insecurity, and launching a tri-share childcare program, splitting the cost of childcare equally between employees, their employer, and the state of Michigan. We are focused on providing relief to get through the current economic crisis, while also continuing to look ahead to ensure we have a strong foundation for long-term economic recovery moving forward. We need both of these pieces for true economic recovery. I encourage you to keep checking our website for the latest updates and resources on our homepage at michigan.gov/Leo. You can also sign up for email updates. And I look forward to continued collaboration as we move Michigan forward. Thank you. And I think we now have some time for questions.
Yes, so some folks have sent in, but we do encourage other people to go ahead and hit that chat button at the bottom right hand of the screen if you're on a computer, or the top right if you are on a tablet, to submit any additional questions for Susan. So one question that we've gotten, Susan, is advice or information you have for other states that might be looking to do something similar.
Well, as I mentioned, this program had strong bipartisan support in Michigan. In Michigan, we have Governor Whitmer, a Democratic governor, and our legislature is controlled by Republicans. While they may not always see eye to eye on other critical issues, for Michigan Reconnect, this is a program that had strong bipartisan support. When creating this program, we had members of our legislature, along with staff from the governor's office, visit Tennessee, where there's a very similar program. And so we took some of the best parts of that program that we thought would work in Michigan, and we also worked quite closely with the business community. We are hearing repeatedly from employers, both large and small, that we have so many jobs in Michigan that are going unfilled because in their local communities, employers cannot find people with the right skills and credentials. So I think that working with all of the stakeholders really is what has set this path on a strong has created a strong start for this program.
Great. And there was another question regarding evaluation and what your department's plans might be to help measure the impact of Michigan Reconnect in the coming months and years.
Well, there's obviously many things that we will be looking at. We'll want to see if jobs are being filled. We'll want to look at the completion rate. We want to track very closely the completion rate of people who are enrolling in this program. And then, whether they are hired after the program, or if they're currently in a job and they're completing a skills certificate or a community college degree that's going to help contribute to that job, what kind of increase in income they will see. And then we'll continue tracking who enrolls in the program. This program is targeted to those people in Michigan who have been disproportionately impacted by the public health crisis, but also to populations in our state who have not benefited from traditional programs.
Thank you. And some additional questions that we're getting. Someone was asking how you were able to get employers to assist with childcare costs.
This is another legislative program that has strong bipartisan support. The Tri-Share program is a pilot program right now. It's in its infancy, and it was created in statute by our legislature. It's funded this coming year with $1.2 million. In our budget, we're requesting another $2 million to broaden the program, but we will be piloting the program in 3 communities, 2 more urban communities and a rural community. But in Michigan, this is something else that is being driven by employers. We know as we start returning people to the workplace that childcare, finding adequate childcare and the burden of the cost of childcare is something that is preventing people from returning to the workplace. And in fact, we've just completed a return to the office task force and have passed on the report and recommendations from that task force to our governor. And one of the mantras that we heard from both businesses, labor, and public sector is childcare. That in Michigan we need to solve the burden of childcare to employees.
Thank you. And I just want to give folks a heads up. We are getting a whole bunch of questions rolling in now, but I do want to be mindful of the time. So if we do not get to your question, definitely feel free to check out the Michigan Reconnect website that we posted in the chat. That will answer some of the questions that have come. So one, potentially our last question, an attendee writes that Tennessee is a great example and they are using their free community college as a way to close the racial wealth divide. The mayor of Nashville is using his platform to bridge those gaps with high-paying businesses that they say they can't fill the jobs. Nashville is also implementing universal pre-K, which is necessary for parents who need quality early child care education. So what is Michigan doing to be proactive about other barriers that might limit access to pursuing post-secondary opportunities?
Well, as I mentioned in the governor's supplemental, and we're looking now at the federal funds that will be coming into Michigan, and working with our legislative partners to provide additional support to provide additional support to students who are enrolling in both Frontliners and Reconnect, in particular single parents. We want to be able to provide more wraparound services, childcare, food assistance, transportation. So that's something that we are navigating now, with our legislative partners and with the governor, trying to identify additional resources that can be used to provide those types of supports.
Fantastic. Well, I do know that we are at time, so want to be respectful to our speakers as well as those of you who might be speaking at a breakout session in just about 15 minutes here. So thank you so much, Susan. We so appreciate having you join us. Really excited to hear more about the innovative work happening in Michigan. If folks want to hang on for just a second, I will try to post some of the answers to some of those additional questions that came in the chat. But otherwise, Hannah, if you want to go ahead and pull up the slide with the links for the breakout sessions, those will be taking place at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. So that is, again, in about 15 minutes. Today, we do have, just as yesterday, a session focused on the intersection of housing and education. And that will be, as I mentioned earlier, about some of the post-secondary work happening with housing authorities across the country. In our health room, we have a session on substance use. And in our partnerships room, we have a session on the eviction moratorium and practices that have been happening amid the pandemic. So you can find the Zoom links and the passwords right here on your screen, as well as in the email you should have received earlier today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and try to type some of these responses in the chat. Feel free to let us know if you have any other questions. Thank you so much.